Alexander Selwood is hiding many secrets. Being the first immortal is only one of them. He is also hunted by the despotic ruler of Sinfor, Caesar Thaxter, the man ruling the galaxy for centuries. Unknown to Alexander, the group of rebels who had been fighting Thaxter in secret is also seeking to use his company to build a safe haven. He would do anything to keep himself from falling into the clutches of either the Resistance or the Supreme Ruler. When the consequences of his actions cascade into a torrent of events that threatens to engulf him and everyone he cares for in danger, Alexander can't sit on the sidelines any longer. Having stayed out of the conflict for this long, he has to make a choice. But can he handle the repercussions of that decision? So The Elitist Supremacy is the first book in the Elite and the Rogues series by Niranjan K. And it has all the makings of sort of, I guess, cyberpunk dystopian story, I guess, is the most accurate way to put it. There's a lot of technology involved. It takes place in a futuristic world where the state kind of runs everything, and the world is ruled by a group of immortal beings, well, humans who have been turned immortal, and then they are fighting against the Resistance and a group of their own immortal beings turned rogue called the Rogues. And Alexander Selwood, the main character mentioned in the blurb, is kind of at the heart of this with his company, who is sort of involved in technological situations, I guess, and his own past and that sort of a thing. The plot of this book, okay, it takes a very long time to get into anything remotely like the first plot point. The first situation where the hero, or in this case Alexander Selwood, who is more of an anti-hero, gets like thoroughly involved in the story. The rest of the time, the consequences for him are just kind of not there. He's more doing this out of amusement than anything. I would say it's really got started at about 60%. And I had a really hard time getting into this story. The first part of the book starts with a lot of character conversations, which is totally fine, perfectly normal thing to have. The characters talk about, okay, we need to do this and we need to do that, and then they go and they talk some more about this versus that, and there's a lot of talking. Not a lot of information presented. The world is very mysterious until about 40% of the book, when you finally figure out, okay, who are the elites and who are these rogues and what's going on and that sort of a thing. There's not a lot of detail given on the technology. I had a hard time getting into this book. It was a shame because the prose is very smooth and very fluid, and there's not a single problem with the prose. It's just the plot felt very slow to me. As far as the characters go, there were a fair number of characters on both sides of the coin, mostly on the Resistance side, but sort of neutral for a bunch of the others, and that is perfectly fine. We don't need to see a lot of the other points of view, simply because this is the first story in the series and you need to set up one side versus the other. You can do both simultaneously, but it's a different sort of style than this book was going for. But the characters, for all their supposed differences, all spoke the same. And they all had the same sort of pattern of speech, and they all had the same sort of ideas, but in personality and in patterns of speech. They all felt very similar. Just sort of a bummer. I wanted to like this book. I like cyberpunk. I write cyberpunk. I haven't written more cyberpunk in a while, but that's an entirely different situation. So it was kind of a bummer. I will say, if you are interested in more of the schema behind the politics, behind the revolutions, and behind the motivations to start one way or another, then this book is very good, and it does get that sort of intricate detail going. Again, this is a perfectly good book. It's just not my favorite style. It takes took a while for me to get into. When it comes to detail, there's a fine line between too much and too little. And this book went too much into the context of things, too much detail about the conversations and the people who need to meet with that person and that sort of thing, and not enough detail on the background, on the why. A lot of the what, not a lot of the why. It's just not my favorite style. It is a perfectly valid style. It happens a lot in books. It's not my favorite. Anyways, as usual, the links for this book will be in the description box below. You can find it there. I have a feeling that the second book will move a lot faster, simply because things are now in motion on a more involved scale. And so there's a lot less waiting around, I guess, for things to happen. Things are just, you know, moving really, really quickly now. Book 2 is probably a good place to go. Anyways, that's all I've got for you today. Links are in the description. My links are there too if you're interested. Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot else. Anyways, go cause some trouble, go read a book, and I shall see you next time.